Hey everyone, this is my reaction to the 13th and final episode of ReZero Season 2 Part 1. It's a bit of a mouthful, but I think I got that out. So, last episode we ended off with a bit of a witch party with Subaru as the special guest. I do think that's the best way to describe it. Even Satella, the big bad witch, the most legendary one, just kind of strolled on in there, so, you know, it's not a party until she shows up, so we'll see what happens with that, but I imagine things are gonna get shaken up a bit with her presence here. So let's just watch it and see if that is indeed the case, or if she just goes home. You know, she reads the mood and decides she's better off just leaving. That's also a possibility, but I somehow doubt it. 3, 2, 1, play. Hello, Satella. I'm glad you can make it. The tea's over there. Everything. But mostly love. Maybe we could just be friends? It is hard to say no to that voice, though. I mean, if you can. That is kind of how it deals with things. I disagree. Strongly. What a privilege. Easy for a witch to say. Yeah, do you not think about her feelings? She's definitely trying to express them to you, that's for sure. I mean, she gave you the return by death thing. That is a pretty important present. Well, I think that ship may have sailed. I don't think that's what she's saying, Subaru. That definitely is lacking. The guy that just kills himself over and over again to help others. It's not exactly a healthy way to live. I think there's something wrong with your way of thinking, Subaru. Look at that. That's definitely not true. Only Puck was here. Nobody better say that line. Nobody gonna give him a head pad? Well, at least he's not a witch. That's what my comeback would be. Hey, yeah, somebody give him a head pat. I was kind of joking, but everyone. I mean, if the girl laying down was the last one to bully him. We're supposed to say I love Amelia. Calm down, Subaru. Oh. Oh, no. Uh, yeah, that is how it deals with things. Just biting that tongue. When things get too rough, that's his way out. Ow. That poor fist. I mean, there's not much you can do about it at this point. Yeah, definitely not now. I didn't quite get that impression, but you're mostly on the ground side, and now so is she. And so is Subaru, so the ground's kind of slowly becoming the majority. Nothing positive. But anyway, it's not entirely Subaru's fault. His return by death thing, I think it's had a strong influence on how he decides to solve problems, and I think that's had an effect on his mentally, on the way he views things. Because it's literally a self-sacrificing kind of superpower. That he's used several times by now. Then wake up. Oh. That'll either wake you up or kill you. Depends on how lucky you are. Are you feeling better, Subaru? I mean, I guess he's alive. Just think back to your parents' episode, Subaru. I think that might help a little bit. Such a perfect field to play in. Yes, Subaru, it's okay. That's what we're trying to tell you. Value yourself more, love yourself, all that other positive stuff, There you go, Subaru. We got a confirmation. Well, I don't know them well enough to be surprised by their actions, really. I know, right? Just want to watch Subaru do his best. Oh? Oh, okay. The most moe one. You still just look so huggable. The shifting eyes are too powerful. Well said. It's a lot done. Not sure what you expected from a group of witches, but this is what you get. Yeah, feeling better, man. I know you fall off the horse once in a while, but you always get back on. That does sound good. Just sign a contract with me, Subaru. Everything will be fine. I think that's pretty normal. You're kind of leaving her hanging here, man. Forehand. That would be nice. Yes, how fitting. Maybe we'll give her a hug instead of a handshake. That'd be something. And how do we do that? I guess we couldn't have that. No hug, though. So in the end, they were all helpful. In their own way. Just sit on her lap. And she is a complicated woman. Nothing's ever easy for you, Subaru. But there we go. Words have gotten through to him. A lot of things are a step up from dying. Like most things, really. And I think our time is done. You've gotten all this love and encouragement from our group of witches, and we're ready to face the world again. Gonna miss them, though. I kind of wanted to just stay here for a while. It takes her hand. Okay. The Subaru says it must be true, so. Oh, hey, our dragon companion. Glad to see you, alright, alright. Oh, and our BFF. It's a great awakening scene so far. Now, if only Rem was there. Not that I would trust it at this point if she was. Right. But we're friends, Subaru. I mean, we've already established this. But yeah, I agree. Wow. Yeah, Subaru, try to keep up. Yeah, Subaru, you should get that. Man, he just woke up and he's already dealing with this again. I made him cry. Good job, Oto. Well, yeah. How did you not get that? Well, I mean, because his eyes were close to it, right? We were talking about that. Love you too, buddy. You wouldn't believe me if I told you what I went through. uh, we all know Oto likes him best. I almost was hoping for a hug there, but no. Oh, we got rejected. Oh, that looked unpleasant. So, wow, yeah, that's different. Yeah, it definitely did, so... Yeah, that's the only explanation for it. I guess that was done. Didn't quite notice that, but... Proof's in the pudding. That definitely changes things, for sure. Well, what's our next step, Subaru? We have not a whole lot of time left. Don't remind me of that. Could say that. Hate that verbal thing he does so much. Yeah, I'm kind of done with that too. We just had a lecture about him valuing himself and loving himself, so... I mean, you weren't there for that, but it was important. Gosh. Guess he can just do that. I'd rather you get the futures you deserve. we're halfway through season 2, man. Yeah, some of us actually care about other people's feelings. I don't like him staring at me. Maybe he just doesn't want to talk to you. I wouldn't blame him. Do you have to? Yeah. The mansion is still a thing. I would say I was surprised, but I'm really not. So can we stab him now that we've got that? I mean, I've always wanted to stab him, but hopefully this will push Subaru to do so. I'll sharpen yours something. Glad you're realizing that, Subaru. Yeah, that number again. That's probably the best question he's asked so far. I don't think we're gonna agree here. So where's the nearest knife? This is not what I said to do, Subaru. Like, do you need a knife? I'll find one. It's... I hear footsteps, I think. Well, I hear creaky floorboards, but that could just be Subaru. Yeah, just take your hand. I really, really hate you. You don't need to be jealous. You stabbed Ram. I'm not gonna forget that. I should hope not. We leave with him still unstabbed. God damn it, Subaru, you had one job in that room. I know it wouldn't solve all the problems, but it'd make me feel better. I think that's what matters. Our little cosplayer. Don't ask me, Subaru. Yes, please, if you got advice, and there's the music. Oto, you're the only one we can trust. Can I give you a hug? I could use a hug. Let's not. It's been a rough day. Been a rough life. That's what BFFs are for, Subaru. Yes. I have faith in you, Oto. Please help. Well, I didn't mind. Your turn, Subaru. Are we gonna end off with Subaru, like, revealing something here? It almost feels like it. Oh, or or a punch. That was option 2. I guess a forehead bump wasn't enough. Like, I'm sorry, Oto. Didn't know he was so violent. And that's that. That's that. Okay. Well, that was definitely a pretty solid finale for our first half of season 2. For sure. I mean, just seeing all the witches together really is a really very compelling thing, because they're just all so different from each other, and yet in the scene they kind of converge and all kind of wanting to support Subaru in a way, in their own way, and it's just kind of a nice thing to see. And just in general, the scene, you're definitely getting into Subaru as a person, and it definitely reminded me a little bit of his moment with Rem back in season 1. Really, you know, delving into that Subaru psyche and getting what he thinks and trying to kind of like maybe curb some of his not so healthy way of thinking and try to, you know, like not get so tunnel visioned, value himself more, love himself more, as Satella said, you know, because it's not a perfect solution just to have you suffer and everyone else, as long as that saves everyone else. It's not really ideal, right? You know, he always uses return by death as a tool a lot, but that's not really, you know, like, it is a factor for sure, but it's not something you should use so easily, I think was the main point they were trying to get, right? Because he's used that a lot, you know, like a lot. Like, how many times has Subaru died in the show? Because I lost track a long time ago. So, and he's died a lot just in this arc, right? Like, 7? How many times has he died, actually? I don't know, in this arc, in this whole sanctuary village arc thing. Like, I'm not even sure. Like, I think it's been more than usual. Like, I think usually it was like about 4 for any given arc, at least 4 or 5, but I think it's been more than that here. Hopefully someone has kept track, because I clearly have not. So, but yeah, it was definitely a pretty emotional scene, really delving into Subaru. Tears were shed, blood was shed, foreheads were headbutted, things were said, some nice things were said, some hurtful things were said. A lot went on there, like a lot. Hopefully Subaru was able to take something from that. It seemed like he did. It seemed like he got a lot cleared up from that and can kind of move in a more positive direction. Although even in the end of the episode, he definitely did seem a little bit lost, but luckily Oto was there for him. But we are skipping a little bit ahead there, because once he actually got back, well, he did meet Oto right then, and then had a nice little chat. Already kind of seeing some of the fruits of that discussion coming forth, being like, what? You actually like me? What is this craziness? You know, that whole thing. But he did have an interaction with frickin'... I don't remember his name. I kind of have this bad habit of where I have trouble remembering names of people I dislike. Roswald, I think. Yeah, anyway, we talked to him. And I never like it when we talk to him. I pretty much always walk away with those scenes with a bad taste in my mouth, pretty much regardless of how it goes, because I hate him. You know, his verbal tick, his weird thing that he does is annoying. Like, that's already a strike against him, but even without that, he's just a very unlikable person. Especially in this scene, we went just into how insane and soulless he is, right? Clearly wanting to rub some of that off on Subaru, asking Subaru why he's not insane yet, clearly wanting Subaru to be more like him, which I think is just a terrible idea. Like, no thank you. No thank you is my biggest takeaway. But he definitely tried to come across as trying to help Subaru in a way, you know, sharpen him up, make him ready for the real world, and he was trying to frame it like that, but I still think it's not a great idea to take too much of what he says seriously. Like, let's not take to heart too much of what he said, really. I mean, reinforcing yourself a little bit's not a bad thing, but, you know, killing off any sense of emotion and soul and humanity you have is probably not the ideal way of going about things, and I think that's the thing. So, luckily, by the end of the episode, we did run into Oto, who is, at this point, confirmed to be Subaru's #1 BFF. So, if anyone's able to knock some sense in him, get him on the right track, it would be our boy Oto, our super clever merchant boy, and a nice little wallop on his face. I think that helped, you know? I think. So so Oto wouldn't punch him without a good reason. So if he believes that helped Subaru snap out of it, and I'm inclined to believe him, honestly. So that was a interesting way to end it off. I was almost expecting some kind of reveal from Oto, really, like some kind of like mind blow kind of thing, plot twisty thing to end off the show. But no, we got a punch instead, which I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because it was like a friendship, you know, kind of punch. I know that sounds kind of weird to say, but it's an anime thing, you know, when your best friend knows you're just not how you should be, and they just a good punch from your friend can help. It's if you haven't seen scenes like that in anime a lot, maybe that sounds weird, but it's a thing. Trust me, it's a thing. So, but yeah, as far as the reveal of Roswald sending the assassins to the mansion, that really did not surprise me much at all. Like the way they talked about it before, it had to be somebody with like a knowledge of the schedule and how things go. Roswald was just in such a perfect position to be that sort of mastermind, and he's obviously been especially villainy in this arc more than he has in the past, you know? And they've been kind of building that up, and obviously whoever was behind the assassin instructions was obviously being tried to be kept secret, and those two things just kind of coming together just made sense in my head. I don't remember if I ever actually accused him of it. I really don't, but that really was where my suspicions was at. I was like 80% sure on that, but I didn't really have another guess, really, so maybe you could call it 100% in that regard. But yeah, I was not shocked by that. I just really wasn't. Maybe some people were. Maybe I was supposed to, but I just assume he's in the wrong most of the time anyway, so maybe that helped. But yeah, this was definitely a pretty powerful episode. Hopefully Subaru is in a better position mentally to move forward, because this is like first half of our second season. Second half, hopefully he can move forward and make some good progress with our boy Oto by his side. And yeah, he'll definitely need the help because he already lost his greed. What do they call it? Aspect, pact, whatever they called it. It's like Kid took it away from him, so he can't actually go in there anymore. Like he can't do the trials anymore, and that's a bit of a problem. I mean, it kind of changes our options, like lessens our options, I mean to say. So that's probably all I had to say on the episode itself. Do you have any thoughts on the overall first part season that I want to talk about? I mean, not really. I mean, the biggest thing is the fact that Rem really wasn't in it. You know, me being like a big Rem fan and getting excited that more ReZero means more Rem, and then they're just like, ha ha ha, never mind, you thought that would be the case. It'll be silly, Rem's in bed, and she will be for like ever, so get used to that, Rem fans. The show did that, which, you know, angered me a little bit. But, you know, just the show is full of suffering. I should kind of expect it at this point. Anything that I do not want to have happen will be thrown at me. That should just be kind of expected, really. So, really think about it, it's my fault for not being ready for it, you know? Kind of like when Game of Thrones fans are upset when their favorite character dies. It's the show you watch, you know? take it or leave it. It's that kind of thing. So not too much to say on that. We did get like a fake rem to kind of help a little bit, but it was a bit of a band-aid solution to it. So it didn't help a huge amount, but getting to hear that voice, it was nice though. It was still nice, and it was actually a way of introducing us to like the new witch, who I quite liked, you know. So that was nice in that regard, because she seemed quite friendly and nice. My voice cannot be going already. I have like 3 more videos to do today, so hopefully that's not actually happening. But anyway, we did get kind of new characters this season, the season half. Okay. So we had Garfield, who I don't like too much because, well, for one thing, he yells a lot. He's not exactly super friendly. He was an antagonist of Subaru in some of these iterations of this arc. At some point, like freaking killing Otto. So yeah, I can't like him too much. I can't. We got Ryuzu, like our clone girl that was sort of a immortality experiment for Echidna, something like that. She was nice enough. I hope we get more of her, because the different clones, but them being fairly different from each other, and I think one even having like their own family name to distinguish himself. You know, that was a fun little thing to have in the season, for sure. And I mean, the witches, that's probably the biggest thing with this, honestly, because up until this point, we've had like not really any witches like in the show itself. Like we saw them in imagination visuals or flashbacks and stuff. I mean, even then, it was really only Satella that we ever saw any kind of visuals of. We just heard that she like consumed the other witches out of jealousy or something like that. That's the story we heard back then. But this arc, we got Echidna. Echidna, who was pretty popular with the fans because, like, I mean, I saw her trending on Twitter at least 1 point, maybe 2 points. So yeah, people liked Echidna, and she was just pretty likable, pretty cute, pretty great. I mean, she's a witch, so you gotta expect a certain amount of evilness, but she was quite likable in spite of that. And that's a pretty fun interaction with Subaru. You know, had a little bit of Gatmo going on at certain points, so she was pretty great. And then suddenly they just like throw a whole bunch of witches at us who were all pretty different from each other, which surprised me because Echidna already looked a lot like Satella, who looked a lot like Amelia, so I kind of expected that to be just like every witch looks more or less the same. But then we had this big old diverse cast of witches in both personality and character design. They're all pretty different. I mean, they're all like kind of like named after sins, so it makes sense for them to have different personalities, and the personalities, of course, reflect the sins, because that's like always the case whenever anime does this sort of thing. You know, Fullmetal Alchemist comes to mind. You know, Gluttony with his always eating stuff and all that. And in this one we had like Sloth laying down and, you know, that kind of thing. I don't quite have them all like memorized in my head, you know, names to attribute to design, really, but there were some pretty great ones for sure. Minerva, I think she was Wrath. I do quite like her for sure. She had a nice little headbutt to Subaru in this episode, which was pretty cool. We have the one Typhoon, I think, you know, with that like most distinctive lolly voice ever. You know, she was something. But it's just every time she speaks, I have a couple other characters that always pop in my head. You know, like the girl from Happy Sugar Life is probably the biggest one. And also Sekai Seifuku, which is the first time I ever heard that voice. You know, both those usually pop into my head when she speaks. Which is not really her fault, but it is a thing. But yeah, just some very interesting witch designs for sure. I don't know how much more of them we'll get in the future, but I would gladly accept more of them, like without doubt. Yeah, Minerva's just entrance in the show was great, like descending to the ground as she's given like a bit of a monologue and crashing in the superhero landing. That was also a pretty memorable part of the show, episode or season half. But I don't know how much more I have to say on it as a whole. You know, I feel like we had like a decent amount of reveals and twists and stuff, and you know, plenty of suffering. Like, we had our most brutal-looking death so far with all the little rabbits. You know, and then, yeah, apparently there's, like, more than just a whale when it comes to super overpowered, horrible, magical beasts that need to be dealt with. I think they also mentioned one other one besides the rabbits and the whale. I want to say it was a tiger, but I am, like, not at all confident on that. It was just the first thing that came to mind. So I imagine we'll deal with that at some point. I mean, we haven't even really dealt with the rabbits yet, have we? Like, we've run into them, but we haven't, like, killed them or anything. And it seems harder to kill than the whale, because at least the whale was just, like, one thing. I mean, it was kind of more than one thing, but it wasn't, like, a million things. So, yeah, we have work cut out for us for that one. Definitely. So, but I think, yeah, one of the most important things was just the best friend confirmation we got between Subaru and Oto. Another one of the most memorable parts of this for sure. So hopefully we can continue to make good progress on that, because Subaru needs a good male BFF, you know, somebody to give him those friendship punches and all that. I'm so disappointed we didn't stab Roswald. Like, why couldn't we have done that? That's all I asked for. I wasn't that greedy. That's all I wanted. But oh well. So I'm just kind of thinking real quick if there's anything else I want to talk about it before we kind of end this off. I mean, I guess a parents thing. That was definitely one of the highlights of this, for sure. Like, I never thought in a million years we would ever get Subaru's parents, like, in any capacity, honestly. I mean, I do compare the show to Konosuba in my head a lot, just because it's fairly similar in some ways. But we never met Kazuma's parents, like, ever. So I didn't really expect to meet Subaru's either. But we had a full-on episode dedicated to that. You know, some family bonding time, some one-on-one time with each respective parents. Really just letting the, you know, both of them kind of like worrying about Subaru, because, I mean, why wouldn't you worry about Subaru? And they all just kind of had this, you know, really pleasant, wholesome heart-to-heart, and really worked through a lot of things. And it was one of if not the biggest highlight of this season overall. You know, so that was, I don't have much to say on it really, but that really stuck with me for sure as being a real pivotal part of it, definitely. So that was the first trial. The second trial we had was just like, we saw like kind of the what if thing, as I called it, seeing like the aftermath of some of Subaru's self-sacrificing things, you know, which I think kind of helped to highlight the fact that people, yeah, are bothered by the fact that Subaru's just killing himself. Like nobody's happy that he does that. He just doesn't quite get that too much, because obviously nobody remembers him doing that. Nobody aside from the witches know he can do that. So I think it would probably help if some people could just like some of Subaru's people could actually, you know, scold him for overusing it. But we never got that, because we could never get that because of the way it works. I just wonder how different things would go if we actually could get some scenes of Rem being like, Subaru, stop killing yourself. Like, we can figure this out. We don't need to resort to that. It's an interesting thing to think about, because we finally got that with the witches, you know? So. And yeah, Subaru, just him, also that one episode when he realized, like, Echidna was somebody that actually knows about his abilities, and you can actually tell somebody about his return by death without people dying. So that was also a pretty important thing for Subaru, to have somebody that he could finally talk to about that. Although he certainly had his ups and downs in regards to his feelings towards the witches, you know. Anything else to say about this? I mean, it's just good to have ReZero back at all, you know. I remember when I first watched season 1, it had a pretty big impact on me. You know, I kind of viewed it as being a masterpiece when I first watched it. I mean, I think my enthusiasm for it has waned a little bit since then, but just, I always put a lot of respect to my first viewing of things, like my first viewing of Madoka Magica, you know. Even if later on, when, you know, recency bias and everything kind of fades, I still can really appreciate a show that does make me feel that way upon the initial viewing. So, as a result, ReZero pretty much has a solid spot in my top 10 anime, you know, just in general, because of that. Because of just the emotional roller coaster and impression it made on me when I first watched it, and the several, you know, reactions to it I watched afterwards. So I can't say whether or not, you know, this first half of the second season has lived up to the first season. I mean, for one thing, we've only had half of it, and, you know, it would just feel weird to compare them for several reasons, honestly, but I thought it was pretty solid, aside from the whole no Rem thing. It's delivered in a lot of fronts, for sure. And I am interested to see how things will go. We are still kind of stuck in this sanctuary area. Like, as far as, in certain respects, the plot hasn't moved forward too much. It's just been mostly a lot of Subaru character development and reveals. That's probably the biggest part of it, right? Not too much has really happened beyond that, really. Which is fine, you know. Development is development. So it's just that hopefully we can start to make some real progress on the conflict, you know, like, we've done a lot of information gathering and whatnot in this first half, so hopefully the second half is a bit more of doing, if that makes any sense at all, the way I'm trying to phrase it. But we have Oto here as our best friend that's, you know, willing to help, so I like to imagine we could utilize our newfound friendship and work hard together to really make some good progress on just helping, like, improving the situation, helping people, preventing people from dying, you know, that kind of stuff. Because as far as that goes, we haven't made much progress, so I would like to see that. Now that Subaru's had as much development as he has had in this first half here. And hopefully stab Roswald, you know, that would be a cool thing to get in the second half too. So, yeah, I think that's all I really got to say. So, just gonna have to wait until we get our continuation, so maybe I'll see you then. But I won't be surprised if I don't. But I'll hope you'll be there, so don't disappoint me. Thank you for watching, and a special thanks to Cnouki and Ryan for supporting the channel. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you consider clicking the like button and leaving a comment, because that's a great and easy way to let me know that people want more. If you want to do something big to help the channel, you can support me on Patreon and get nice benefits like early access to certain videos. See you next time.